We're closely following up on all stories of national concern. Insurgency in the northeast by Boko Haram, who are attacking soft targets. Over 20 killed in an attack in a mosque by girls disguised as men. President Muhammadu Buhari vows to safeguard lives and property of Nigerians in the aftermath of the killing, as the United States condemns the bomb attacks in the strongest terms. Already, the 2016 International Islamic Conference on Peace and National Building holds in Abuja with an aim of mobilizing participants across the globe for sensitization on the current challenges of insecurity and terrorism wrongly attributed to Islam. That's according to President Buhari. How much more will have to die before peace reigns? Data feeds still coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms. You can be part of the show too. Tweets at _Gimba Umar. Use the hashtag State of the Nation for a broader understanding of the issues. It's prime time in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Omar and this is State of the Nation. One scene right behind me, of course, data feeds still coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms. To be part of the show, start right now. Use the hashtag State of the Nation and also tweet at my personal handle at _Gimba Umar. The Auditor General of the Federation discovered fraud in the NNPC at alarming proportions. This was aggravated in the last administration as the war on corruption by the present administration tightens its grip on corrupt officials. In a moment, we'll talk about the state of affairs in Nigeria's oil firm. But first, let's get a sense of the scale of this fraud as put by the Auditor General.
From the examination of NNPC mandates to Central Bank on domestic crude oil sales and reconciliation statement of Technical Subcommittee of Federation Account Allocation Committee meeting held in January 2014. Amount now remitted to the Federal Allocation Committee was 3,234,666,791 naira 35 kobo. As at January 2014, 3.243 trillion was owned to Federation account by NNPC.
The Auditor General of the Federation presenting a report detailing what it called massive fraud and financial irregularities in the NNPC and, of course, other government agencies. Legislative lawyer Larry Siraj, an anti-corruption analyst as well, joins me in the studio to have a look at this. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on State of the Nation.
Thank you very much, Gimba.
A discovery of this scale is the biggest we have seen in recent times as well. 3.24 trillion naira not remitted to the government's coffers by NNPC in the former government. What does this speak of what is to come next?
I think we should actually expect more than what we're getting now. You will remember that the current government is yet to even take on the NNPC and the oil sector in terms of investigating the level of corruption that has gone down the drain with the former government and the previous one, the one before it. But what this speaks to us basically is actually the failure of Office of the Auditor General and that of the National Assembly. According to the Constitution, there should be the Office of the Auditor General who submits an annual audit report to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly then considers that report and make recommendations to necessary agencies, either the Ministry of Finance, the anti-corruption agencies, or other agencies of government that are responsible for implementing such recommendations. But we've never had any of such since 1999 with our democratic dispensation. So that is why you can only be hearing about the failure of NNPC in 2014, now in 2016.
Now, let's take a look at these figures he reeled out. 36.43 billion released to the office of the NSA for construction of dams. He currently faces actually a 2.2 billion, $2.1 billion charge by the FCC. How do you interpret this relationship, the NSA's office as against the Ministry of Water Resources?
Actually, what we had in the last dispensation was actually not a government. We just had a gangster in office when we had the last dispensation. And we were very lucky that it wasn't a repeat during the election. We would rather not be having anything called Nigeria by now, because there was no basis that you would have associated the office of the National Security Advisor with the construction of dam. That is not the Ministry of Water Resources. And we have a Ministry of Water Resources. So there are so many anomalies. I mean, one of the things he also said is about $235 million, the NLNG resources generated by NNPC, not remitted to the Federation account. Like I said, what we had under the last dispensation was a complete violation of all the laws of the land. The Constitution says every revenue accruable to the government goes to the Federation account. Recently, the NNPC responded and said, no, it wasn't 3.2 trillion naira missing. It is just about 326 billion, and it's still being reconciled. And the explanation was, yes, we pay some money to DPR, we paid some money for oil subsidy, we paid some money to partners. There was no basis for NNPC to have expended any amount of resources of the Federation without an appropriation from the National Assembly. And what the Office of the Auditor General had done was basically to audit the account of NNPC based on available evidence and explanation from the NNPC. So failure of the NNPC to account for those monies is what is meant by the monies not being remitted to the Federation account. So any explanation to the extent that whatever means and for whatever purpose the money was utilized without an appropriation from the National Assembly is illegal and is not recognized under the
Of course, you do remember that the previous administration also carried out a forensic audit of the NNPC by PricewaterhouseCoopers. What do you make of that investigation and the outcome of the results?
No, this is actually in line with what the PwC report also came up with. It showed quite a whole lot of misappropriation, misapplication, and abuse of office under the NNPC. As a matter of fact, Chatham House did a report on the Nigerian NNPC, and they titled that report, Nigeria's Criminal Crude. The NNPC was in that report rated as the least transparent organization across the world, with the whole investigation conducted. This is not also talking about the level of oil theft that we have. There's three categories. You have the pilfery ones, with those ones who have illegal refineries and then also tap finished refined products. You have those ones who use barges and cargoes, and you have those, which is the white collar one, who steals from the terminal. So what is actually loaded is different from what is reported. So it's about the NNPC. So that report is going to actually go worse than what you see in 2014 by the audit report, but when the audit report of the 2015 is actually coming to limelight. So it's no doubt, there's no doubt in the fact that even the NLNG thing that I just mentioned, we are talking about more than $235 million.
Who is going to take the fall?
No, it is actually going to be the Office of the Auditor General. It's actually going to be the previous heads of the NNPC, and then also the Minister of Petroleum Resources. And that is where you move it also to the Minister of Finance, because the Minister of Finance was actually responsible for the resources and management of the resources of the country. So where we have not heard anything from the Minister of Finance, and it shows you there's a level of criminal conspiracy between that office and the oil corporation.
That's a forecast, though. But other agencies allegedly caught in this web of fraud by the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, where the Police Service Commission, the Foreign Mission, Nigerian Ports Authority, the NPA, Petroleum Equalization Fund, the PEF, the Nigerian, the list goes on and on. The Nigerian Prison Service, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN. This is enormous.
No,
This is enormous.
This is
and my question is, how does the anti-graft agency begin to go this deep? It will take forever.
No, it's actually going to be too enormous, and I can see, unfortunately, I mean, without being unnecessarily patronizing, we only have even the EFCC alone almost working. The Code of Conduct Bureau would have assisted even far more effectively than the EFCC, because it was responsible for actually scrutinizing the assets of public office holders, which would have made it easier for even detection of the abuse of office. Many of those who have been prosecuted by EFCC now were meant to have been caught by Code of Conduct Bureau and charged back before the Code of Conduct Tribunal, but that has failed. But going down the line, it is not impossible that we're going to have prosecution, convictions, and recovery that will span a period of not less than 8-10 years, with the amount of pilfering that happened under the previous dispensation. So it is going to be very difficult for many of the public office holders. And you can say, I mean, this is just what the Auditor, Office of the Auditor General is saying. You have the one with NIMASA. Almost all the agencies of government are culpable. The TSA ended up, the Treasury Single Account, ended up assisting the government in mopping up many of these reforms. Because what you then have is every agency opened God knows how many accounts in different banks, and then they just raised money. They don't bother to even go to the National Assembly to get the appropriation of the National Assembly before funds are expended. So even when National Assembly finds some of their appropriation or proposals untidy, they just don't bother, because they have a separate account that is not known to the Federation, which they use to implement many of the activities. The over $235 million was said to have been paid into an extra account that is actually not known to the government. And that was not only a federal government money, it is actually the Federation's money. So that is the most unfortunate thing. What happens is the Federation account is shared between the federal government, the state governments, and the local government. But what we ended up having was an extra separate God knows whatever account that only the federal government and federal officers utilizes as they wish.
How do you see the recovery process of these monies?
Yeah, it's been impressive. It's actually, from the last interaction we had with the chairman of the EFCC, he was confessing that in the last 4 months, the recovery has outnumbered what was recovered in the last eight years of the EFCC. So that actually is encouraging. And I can see that there will actually be a lot with the cooperation of the international community and other countries where many of these monies are actually stashed away, and also the cooperation of the judiciary to expedite the process of prosecution. Then I think we can have a very good recovery that will assist the economy of the country.
For whatever reason, who do you suggest or who do you see facing the full wrath of the law? As we understand, the NNPC and its policies are being restructured as it goes.
Oh yeah, of course, the GMDs when these things were happening, and the directors of finance, the directors of the Department for Petroleum Resources, the directors of the NAPIMS, and like I said, the Ministry of Finance and also the Petroleum Resources ministers, within the period when many of these things happened, it is, some of them are going to be liable by vicarious responsibility. There are some of them that are going to be directly involved, but the process of investigation will actually reveal some of this.
You are indeed an anti-corruption analyst, Lanre Suraj. What will be your final words concerning this level of discovery in the NNPC's fraud?
My final word is that Nigerians need to realize that this is actually a fight for Nigerians and not a fight, a sectarian fight based on religion or political affiliation or ethnic background. It is about the Commonwealth of Nigeria. We all need to support the anti-corruption process. We've actually gone the worst we could ever imagine, and we can't go back that line again. We missed an opportunity in about 30 years ago to actually put a stop to the ravaging effect of corruption this time we just mustn't miss it.
Mr. Larry Siraj, an anti-corruption analyst, I want to thank you so much indeed for speaking to us on State of the Nation. Do remember, though, that you can be part of this conversation. Just tweet at _Gimba Umar and use the hashtag State of the Nation. And when State of the Nation returns...
State House of Assembly has not been able to perform its legislative function as a result of the lingering crisis rocking the House, as confirmed by all the stakeholders in the state. The House has been under lockdown.
Over the Kogi State House of Assembly. We're going to look at the issues involved. Stay with us.